Good evening. I'd like to call the General Committee meeting to order. Would everyone please rise for the prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance?
Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for the many gifts you have brought us since we last met. Be with us this evening as we make decisions that are in the best interest of the children we serve, and help us to plan programs and initiatives that cause them to realize their highest potential. We ask a special blessing upon our veterans, as tomorrow is Veterans Day, as well as those who currently serve in our military. These things we ask in your name. Amen.
Amen. Mr. Warner, would you lead us in the pledge, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please, Ms. Foche.
Ms. Acevedo? Here. Mr. Campbell?
Here.
Mr. Egan is not with us. Ms. Jackson? Ms. Lemoyne?
Here.
Mr. England? Ms. Dysart?
Here.
Mr. Long?
Here.
Mr. Smith?
Here.
Mr. Warner?
Here.
And Ms. White?
Here. Thank you, Ms. Foche. Before we go on to our regular agenda items, I would like to, at this time, recognize the new reporter working with the St. Claude Voice, Justin Walton. Welcome. And with us tonight also, representing the teachers and the Teachers Union, is Miss Maggie Roussel. Thank you. And a point of privilege before we go on also, you mentioned tomorrow being Veterans Day, Ms. Foche. For any of those who were able to attend the Veterans Day Parade, I just want to give kudos to all of our students who participated in that parade and all the teachers who were very, very well attended and marching down in the parade, and you could see how proud they are of the United States of America and our veterans who have served us for our freedoms that we currently enjoy. So thanks to all the school children and to the teachers who participated in the parade. We appreciate it. Great job.
And I would just like to add to that Ms. Harleton, who runs our elementary program, got our participation together from all of our schools. So I just wanted to thank her for coordinating that event for us from the school board side.
Thank you, Ms. Halton, and thank you, Ms. Vogt. Okay, first item on the agenda with us tonight is Ms. Alex Schneider with Super News.
Good evening, folks. It has been, I feel like every time I come up here, I'm like, it was a busy month. And so it is another busy month. We do have a little bit of a longer Super News for you this evening, so we are going to keep our communications report quick. In your folders, as marked as number 4, you'll see a few of our highlights, including press, social media again, and you can kind of see the last 30 days, the ups and downs of some of the things we've had going on Facebook, and then our website. One of the things that we are currently working on with our website is going to be a refresh on the template, which, it's been 6 years since we've had that website up and going, and so we're looking forward to that, and that'll be rolled out soon. And so those are a few of the things happening. Tonight is going to be our final regular Super News of the 2020 year. Next month, you will get to meet our Teachers of the Year, who were recently announced last week. And we'll have our special Teacher of the Year Super News feature for December. But without further ado, I'm going to send it back to the Barry and Jack in the back.
And now from the desk of the Superintendent's office, it's time for Super News.
Hi, I'm Alex Schneider.
And I'm Barry Lemoyne, and welcome to Goche Elementary for today's Super News, where we shine the spotlight on some of the good things happening here in our school system.
We'll begin with the ring. It was a different venue, but the same time-honored traditions that were celebrated on this special Ring Day. Held on the field of Bobby Nuss Stadium, over 350 seniors took part in this ceremony, which marked their first milestone towards graduation.
The rings that our seniors receive today are so much more than silver or gold. They represent a testament to hard work and achievement, to commitment and tenacity. But even deeper than those meanings, a Chalmette High School senior ring represents membership into a very special family, the family of a graduate of Chalmette High, a tangible reminder of those who have come before you, and a testament of the example you provide for those who will come after you.
Family members and school board leaders all took part in this celebration. Thanks to all who worked behind the scenes to make this event in the cool weather a heartwarming ceremony.
Senior, the day is yours. Have a good day.
Also worth celebrating was a small video project produced by CHS student Bryn Plesher, showcasing the school's volleyball team and its coach. Working with her teacher, Miss Morningstar, Bryn also served as the on-camera talent for this special project.
It's important to prepare for each day by stretching, getting everything you need for practice. Here we have an all-girls volleyball team. My besties plus assistant coach Mallory helps my mom too. I have lots of friends on the volleyball team. The team has 2 captains that work really hard. Their names are Emma and Ashley. My mom is an awesome coach who gives her team good advice. Me and my mom love volleyball, but we love each other even more. Even though it's her last year, I always have good memories of my time with the Lady Owls.
In addition to being an aspiring filmmaker, Bryn is also one of dozens of students who participate in Special Olympics each year. In support of this amazing program, St. Bernard Parish Special Olympics received an unexpected charitable grant of $25,000 from the Valero Benefit for Children. Supervisor of Special Olympics, Jeremy Kurth, thanked Valero for their continued support and said this was just another example of our community stakeholders continuing to help our school system build bridges.
And speaking of money, our district continues to excel in its accounting practices. Recently, David Fernandez shared some of the good news about this year's audit.
This report is put together completely by our staff, by David Fernandez and the people that he works with. But he's primarily responsible for this entire document, or the creation of the document, and the management analysis, which I think Mr. Simon referred to. The management discussion and analysis is very, very good, and David put that together.
Congratulations, David, and to the members of the business office. We're so glad we can count on you.
Let's head over to our alternative school at CF Raleigh to meet its Super News team and hear about some of the good things going on there.
Hello, welcome to CF Raleigh, home of the Rockets. My name is Terrell Payne. Let's go meet our teachers. Come on.
At Raleigh this year, our teachers have focused on implementing TBRI, trust-based relational interventions and restorative practices in their classrooms to kind of help the kids excel both academically and behaviorally.
It's all about the relationship. It's all about the relationship, getting close to these kids, getting inside their hearts, and once you do that, the turnaround is miraculous.
I think the most important thing is communication, open communication, both directions. The student needs to understand where I'm coming from, and I need to understand where they're coming from, or else we're never going to get anywhere. And I find, too, that when you're willing to communicate and be open, they're a lot more responsive to you.
By building in opportunities to say yes and through relentless relationship building, our teachers and our staff have worked to form meaningful and genuine bonds with all of our students.
I think it has changed the atmosphere around here because the kids we get are so often told no more than they told yes. And they appreciate and they look for the yes now. When Mississippi and I first came in, the first day of school, we introduced that to them, that we're going to meet your need as much as possible. We're going to try to say yes to as many things that you ask for. In turn, we expect certain behaviors.
To say yes to small things that you can end up getting you can end up having a greater outcome from, positive, out of the student, then you give those small yeses.
We strive to foster a challenging, inclusive, and empowering learning environment where students can pursue their passions and exceed their goals both in and out of the classroom.
It's just amazing when you think this kid is not going to know it, he is not going to know it, I bet my paycheck, bam, it comes out, you know. And so these guys are smart, they're sweet, they've just had a rough life, and so that's a good day. It's a good day when we can talk and we can get to our academics and they can ask me questions, become vulnerable, right? Okay, and feel comfortable to say, hey, Ms. Boudreau, what is that symbol? Hey, Ms. Boudreau, what does this mean? I've never seen this before. You know, so it opens up that door that we could teach them.
Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time here at Raleigh.
Nice job, Rockets. And now let's meet the team here at Goche Elementary for its Super News segment.
Hello, I'm Ryan. And I'm Marlene McCluskey. And hello from JF Goche for Super News. Our first story takes us back to ancient Greece, where our second graders completed their unit on ancient Greece, through which they learned of the civilization and history and the culture of ancient Greece. They dressed up in costumes, participated in Olympic game competitions, and tried Greek foods. I wonder, do you think when Greeks posed for a picture, instead of saying cheese, they said, feta? Okay. In other news, other students at school wrapped up a unit on fairy tales and tall tales by coming to school dressed up as their favorite characters. The students also chose a tale to read and wrote a summary retelling the story. The students then brought their favorite fairy tale and tall tale books to share with their classmates. Our first graders also did some hands-on learning. When they completed a lesson on time, they discussed the past, present, and future, and learned how a timeline shows events in the order which they happened. The lesson culminated in completion of a timeline project in which they made a timeline of their own lives. While they were learning about time, others were learning about energy. The lesson began with students designing building roller coasters to show the changes from potential and kinetic energy, and back again. They also identified points of maximum kinetic energy and maximum potential energy. Finally, students presented their roller coasters to class, explain the transfer of energy. Wow, that project must have taken a lot of energy to complete, right? Thanks for joining us today. And now back to you guys in the hallway.
You know, hearing from Goche is one of the few times when you hear me say, thanks, Hurricanes. But we do want to give a shout out to Jason Dewey and all of his crew for their hard work in getting our schools back on track for both learning and the recent election.
Election Day also marked a day dedicated for our teachers' professional development. As students enjoyed a school holiday, teachers returned to their school sites to collaborate with colleagues and friends around upcoming curriculum and instruction. School board members were also recently recognized for their completion of required training. Board members complete 6 hours of continued education annually. These are just 2 examples of how the educators and staff here in St. Bernard Parish are dedicated to doing what's best for children.
We'd also like to highlight some of the work going on during Red Ribbon Week, an alcohol, tobacco, drug, and violence prevention awareness campaign that takes place each year in October, Red Ribbon Week is the nation's largest and longest running drug awareness and prevention program.
Despite our COVID restrictions, teachers across the district continue to make learning fun, as seen here as a number of schools celebrated the end of its unit on mythology. Storytelling, Olympic Games, and a Minotaur were all part of this amazing journey.
And speaking of amazing, our school's recently selected its Teachers of the Year. Congratulations to these outstanding educators for your commitment to the students of our community. And we'll meet each of these teachers next month on a very special edition of Super News.
Another outstanding educator has also been in our thoughts recently, as our former superintendent, Frank Otterer, passed away. We offer this segment as a tribute to his impact on our community.
Our community and school system lost a dear friend and champion of St. Bernard recently when Frank Otterer passed away. A former superintendent and school board member, Frank was an incredible leader and visionary. His foresight and innovations were instrumental in transforming the public school system into the modern, premier school district it is today. Frank was also tireless in his efforts in the parish's recovery post-Katrina, serving as an at-large member of the St. Bernard Parish Council. A true gentleman, Frank was an incredible teacher and mentor to countless students, educators, and administrators, as well as selfless in his service to the people and programs of the parish. He was a beloved presence at many school and community events, and he will be greatly missed. Our hearts and prayers are with his family, but his spirit and love will live on in the thousands of lives he touched.
And on a personal note, Frank's vision was instrumental to our work here in the Penn TV studio. And for that, Jack Jackson, Dave Destins, and I are eternally grateful for that opportunity.
Thanks for joining us today, and we'll see you next time on Super News.
Thank you, Ms. Schneider. As always, excellent Super News. We appreciate it being so well done by you and Jack and Barry. We appreciate it. Great job. And just a quick thank you to Valero for their very generous donation made to the special education program. And kudos to Bryn. She did an awesome job on her video. And to Coach Placia with the Lady Owls. I know she had over 500 wins, and on a personal note, she coached one of my daughters and, you know, followed volleyball very closely, and she did an excellent job. She will be sorely missed next year when she does retire. Well, I think she's retiring actually in December, huh, Ms. Wojcik?
Yes.
But I know, you know, she's had quite a few students and done an excellent job. And to all the student announcers, they did an awesome job. I mean, they really did. The elementary students at Gbda and then the student at Raleigh Alternative School. Great job by all. Thank you very much. Mr. Warner.
I have to laminate a little bit on Kelly Plush and Bryn. Bryn's my godchild. I don't know if anybody realizes that on the board, but great job, Bryn, if you're watching out there. Great job. And Kelly had 717 wins. 17 wins. So congratulations to you too, Kelly. Great job. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Warner. Those wins sure racked up, huh?
Yeah.
Quickly, but a lot of hard work, I know, from Ms. Placia and all of her volleyball team members. Okay, anyone else? Okay, thank you again. Okay, next item, Ms. White. Would you like to chair this, please?
Yes. Number 5 is Tools for Online Student Safety. And to present, we have Miss Mary Lametta.
Hi, good evening. Okay, this evening I'm here to give you some information on 2 tools we recently implemented for teachers to help our students to work online safely now that they are spending much more time online. And again, I always, as I do, want to give kudos to the teachers for jumping on board, learning the software. And the good news about these 2 pieces of software, they're very easy to use. They don't take a lot of time to learn, but any new thing is a new thing. So our teachers have always been so willing to jump on board and do whatever they need to help the students. So I would be remiss for not starting with that. So basically, as the students are online, you know from time to time, although we have a firewall and we have a content filter and we have things that are inappropriate blocked, there are times when students veer off of a current assignment, or while they're online they may try to search things that may not be applicable to the assignment or may be inappropriate. So in addition to our content filter and to other features we have to block inappropriate activity, we added a feature called Go Guardian for the teachers. And Go Guardian is super easy to use for the teachers. When they log on, they can see from their screen a thumbnail of every student in the classroom screen. So they can tell if the students are on the assignment they should be on the page they should be on. And if they're not, from the teacher's Chromebook or laptop or computer, they can send a black screen to the student to stop their activity. They can close the page if they need to close the page. They can also, in 1 or 2 clicks, put the whole class on the page they should be on. So if they want everybody on IXL, they can send that IXL.com to every student. Secondly, a great benefit is it even works when students are at home. So our Chalmette High teachers, when students are on their hybrid day, they can see what the students are doing on their hybrid day or their at-home day. It also tracks for us all the student activities. So a teacher can go back once class is over and look at the websites the students in the class were on, how often they were on pages, how long they spent on pages, and give teachers an idea if the student spent the appropriate amount of time on a given assignment as they go to work through the grade. So it's really been a fantastic tool for us, the Go Guardian, and for the teachers it's been a wonderful thing too, because when you're trying to work with students in a classroom, you choose in between watching what they're doing and helping the students. So this takes the burden of watching what everyone's doing and makes it a whole lot easier for the teachers. Secondly, we learned, as you may know from home, I learn a great deal from YouTube every single day. Anytime I want to do something at home, I look up YouTube, how to do it, and I thank all the people who go on YouTube and tell me how to do, from the people who teach me how to do plumbing and unboxing and putting things together. They save me on a daily basis. But you also know from being on YouTube, it has advertisements that sometimes could be inappropriate, sometimes could be suggestive and have nothing to do with the topic that you're looking up. Secondly, YouTube often has thumbnails of upcoming videos, and sometimes those are not related to what you're looking at, and sometimes those are inappropriate as well. So teachers, especially at Chalmette High with the hybrid days, wanted a way for students to get curriculum and get some content instruction through YouTube, but we were fighting what to do with the inappropriate content. So up until now, we had YouTube blocked for the students and had it open for the teachers. And how that worked was in class, the teachers could show the YouTube video on the Promethean board, and the students could see it because the teachers were in control of the content. But when they were at home and you just let them loose on YouTube, it's not always what the parents would want, especially in the middle and the elementary grades, because it's definitely content on YouTube that would not be appropriate for students. So we purchased a software called Safe Share. And what Safe Share is, it's very easy for teachers to use. They go on YouTube, they copy out the YouTube video link, and when they share the link through Google Classroom or through PowerSchool Learning Management System, the students are not going to YouTube, they're going to Safe Share. And the teachers can control the length. They can cut a piece of a YouTube video, the beginning, the end, the middle. They can do it in phases. And we're not letting the students loose on YouTube. They only have access to that one video, and the advertisements and the thumbnails are gone. So it's a safe way for high school students to learn how to solve a quadratic equation and look at it a few times, be on YouTube and get some really sometimes intricate content, and they can view it multiple times if they need to, without all the issues you may have in YouTube. So we did probably spend the last 2 years trying to find a good way for teachers to allow students to get on YouTube and get some really valid instruction in many cases. And we found this school year, and it really has been a godsend, I think, especially for the hybrid students, and the students are at home. So again, these are 2 pieces of software. Go Guardian, that lets teachers monitor what students are on. They can see during class everyone's screen. Even if they're at home, they can tell what the students are on, what they have been on, black out a screen, send a series of links they want the students to go on, and really be in control of what students are doing online. And the second piece is the Safe Share, which really lets us unleash the power of YouTube for students and really get them very often some really good content help, some good visuals and good audio and visuals that otherwise would have been inaccessible. So, and again, like I said, the teachers have jumped on board, learned how to use it, and incorporated it, and thankfully both of these are easy to use.
Thank you, Ms. Alameda. Do we have any questions from the board? Mr. Long?
Ms. Lametta, recently there was a controversy, I think in Jefferson Parish, about a child with a BB gun in the background while he was doing virtual learning. Do you know what our policy is concerning that?
What has happened with that, as everyone, I think, in Louisiana knows, because it's all over the media, of that particular case and situation? Well, the legislature passed a piece of legislation that says by December 31st of this year, each school system, as part of that legislation, that each school system has to convene their discipline committee, and the boards have to adopt a discipline policy for virtual learners. So that has to be done prior to the end of the school year, and it just got passed, just got signed into law. So Mr. Powell is convening within the next 2 weeks our discipline committee, as he normally does every year, if y'all remember, in the spring, and he brings any changes to our conduct, our policy and guide to student conduct to you for approval. So he is getting them together within the next 2 weeks. We're going to then write guidelines specifically for virtual learners, or where we have to amend them to comply with this piece of legislation. And that's going to be brought to the board at the December meeting so that we can meet that deadline. So it's in the works right now, and we will be adopting. Right now, our present policies, and I'm going to be honest with you, I feel that our present policies can serve our virtual learners. And everywhere in our guide to student conduct, if you remember how it's laid out, it has different offenses and it has different consequences. And always the last part of it says it's at the discretion of the administrator, so that our principals at our school sites have discretion when they take a look at a particular offense and decide on a particular consequence. So we haven't had situations like that arise. So if we would have had something arise in that same fashion, then our administrators would have made independent decisions as to what to do, and I think would have handled it very appropriately. So according to the letter of the law, or really in a broader sense, I think our policies do apply to our virtual learners. However, since this piece of legislation was passed, we are going to convene the committee, and we're going to spell out exactly if there are any differences or anything that applies specifically to the virtual learner that may or may not apply to the in-person learner. And that's going to be brought to you next month at the December board meeting.
So basically, the legislation allows, it didn't specify what you must do, it's leaving it up to the individual school systems.
Right. It says we have to adopt policies to address the virtual learner.
Okay.
And no one really had anything in writing that differentiated before this year, because no one anticipated a large number of virtual learners
Right.
where we would have to do that.
Right.
So at that point, this is now a mandate by the state of Louisiana for us to do this.
So when the child is at home, that child is like considered in a classroom, basically.
You know, and people
Correct.
have to understand this and take the emotion out of this whole issue. When we're Zooming or we're conducting a class and there are children in school, then that teacher has the complete attention of that group of students within that classroom. When he is home and you've got some children at home, some children in the classroom, or you're Zooming with a group of 20 or 25 students, and they're all home, well, every student then can see what the other child is doing. And that teacher has to be able to control that environment. It's very difficult to do that, especially the younger the child, and you know that for with your own children, to keep their attention, to constantly redirect them into a positive experience. It's very difficult to manage that. So technically, I do believe that that is an extension of the classroom, because not only does that child have rights, but every other child who is watching this also has rights to a safe environment, whether it be in a classroom or part of a group of children in different environments. So we have to balance that, but we have to balance that in a very reasonable way. So looking at each particular offense, that's why we employ and have in this district, I think, great school administrators who would handle situations one by one, and every situation is different. So hopefully within our St. Bernard Parish school systems, I know we haven't had those issues yet, but if we would, I have full faith and confidence that our principals would handle it in a very appropriate manner with the child and with the child's parents. Okay. But having said that, now that this law is in effect, we have to establish those policies in writing that specifically address virtual learners. And I think that there has to be some agreement with everyone that when any child participates in the learning environment that we are providing, there are some responsibilities from that child and that child's family as well. That also, they have to present an environment that is safe for all children who are participating in that lesson. So we have to strike that balance, and I'm very confident that our administrators and our teachers have the ability to do so and do it in the appropriate manner.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I'm confident in you and our administrators to handle it properly. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And next, Mr. Sean Warner has a question or a statement.
Thank you, Mrs. White. Ms. Lametta, these seems like two really effective pieces of software for our teachers. Do you see any other software out there that may be helpful for them in the future?
We actually, I do, I'm real confident in the software we have for our teachers. We have a variety of things, and I don't want to overload teachers, but we have the learning management system. We have Illuminate, which we do our online testing and gives the teachers reports on how the students are doing on their test to project how they might do on the state test. The reports are very good with that. The students get to simulate online testing for state testing. We have the Go Guardian. We have the Safe Share. And we do some Google Classroom with the LMS. So our teachers do have quite a bit that they are working with now. And we always have our eye out on how to make things better for the teachers. And I always tell the teachers, I know there's a learning curve with everything new we put in, so I always try to take that into consideration. And whenever it feels like we're doing something to you, please know we're trying to do it for you. Because sometimes when you're learning something new, the change makes your job feel harder, but really we wouldn't put it in place if we didn't think it would make things better. So once you get past the learning curve, I do believe the things we're putting in place are helping the teachers. And once they get used to it, they often do agree. So we don't want to overload them with too much. But I do feel like what we have now is sufficient.
Like Ms. Boche said, this came, fast and furious at everybody, this virtual learning. And it seems like the teachers are doing a great job keeping up with it. And you've got some effective tools for them to keep students keep learning and keep the learning going in a virtual classroom. So.
Yes.
Thank you, Mrs. White.
Thank you, Ms. Anybody else have a question? Ms. Boje?
I just have a statement to make, and I'm glad that Mr. Warner brought that back up. Things have come fast and furious, and our teachers have done an unbelievable job in terms of providing for kids who are in their classrooms and also providing for the virtual learners. But from the technology point of view and the training of our teachers and all these tools that we have, I think this whole school district owes a tremendous debt of gratitude to the lady who's standing right up at this podium, Mary Lumetta, who has led this effort from day one and has assembled a technology team which is an amazing group of people. It's a combination of our curriculum people and our technology people. And there's no one in this district that knows more of that, I guess, marriage of the technology and the curriculum than Mary Lametta does. So she has led this entire effort and deserves a great deal. So when anybody asks me who leads technology in this school district, I say Mary Lametta does. So I just had to throw that in there because she really deserves that recognition.
Well, it's really because we have such a great team, so I appreciate that so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else have any questions or statements? Okay. Thank you, Ms.
Thank you.
Lametta.
Good evening.
Oh, did you have?
Thank you, Ms. White. Okay, next item on the agenda are the personnel changes for November 2020.
Before you, you see a very short list, which is wonderful. At this point, just a couple of appointments. We had 1 resignation, 3 appointments, and right now, no turnover with in our teaching corps at the moment. Now, as we approach midterm, obviously, we'll have some changes at the semester, and hopefully be able to welcome some new teachers into the profession, because many will be completing their degrees in December, and we will see, we have some promising student teachers that hopefully we can add to our ranks. But for now, this is all we have in terms of personnel changes.
Are there any questions? And Ms. Voce, just a statement, you said, you talked about, the young teachers coming into our ranks. And with Super News, I forgot to say, congratulations to all of the new Teachers of the Year. It's always exciting to see those who are recognized among the ranks of their fellow teachers at each school. So congratulations to all of the 2020-2021 Teachers of the Year.
And you'll see more of them next month. That was just a sneak preview.
Okay.
That they put up there.
Great job. Okay, thank you. Okay, next item is an executive item. Mr. England.
Thank you, Ms. Dyson. Approval for a revised 2020-2021 school calendar.
Okay, we just passed out, the one that you had in your folder, put to the side, because when we printed it, it jumped the line and it messed up the legend. So the one that we just handed to you is the accurate one, okay? So the revised, as we know, there's a state mandate to have 63,720 instructional minutes in every school year. There's also a mandate that in order to grant Carnegie unit credit, as the high school gets, there has to be a certain number of minutes in each course. And since we're on block scheduling, we have to make sure that in the, quote, first semester we have the appropriate number of minutes, and in the second semester we do. So there are parameters around which we need to work to make this happen. As a result of delaying school a couple of days in the beginning because of COVID and easing our students and employees back into the system, and then the multiple storms that we had in the first semester, we in actuality lost 9 instructional days in the first semester when we add up the ones due to the storms and then the delay of 2 instructional days from the beginning of the school year. We are mandated then to revise our official school calendar. Now, you have to sit there and figure out, and it almost sounds silly to be perfectly honest, but we have to have these 63,720 minutes. And we have to look at days and what in the day constitutes instructional minutes. And that's actual class time. You can't count recess, time between classes as they move from one class to another, lunch periods. None of that can be counted as instructional time. So what we tried to do is look at a combination of holidays that we currently have in the calendar, what we might have to change around, and if we have to add minutes to days to achieve all of the goals that we set. And I don't want to get in the minutia of adding up all these minutes. We had first thought that we, within the school day itself, we were able to redirect some of those minutes to be instructional minutes. And we could recapture what we needed by making the professional development day on January 19th into an instructional day, and then recapturing 4 holidays, 2 at Mardi Gras, 2 at Easter. Then we were talking more and more about it, and I consulted Ms. Roussel, as I know, sitting out there, who is a representative of the teachers. Talked with her, consulted with her, talked with the principals about, and with this type of year too, when you look at, say, the week we were going to have off at Mardi Gras, and trying to recapture some of those days, many of our employees and many of our teachers had scheduled vacation for that period of time. I realize the kids have too, but I'm talking about coverage of classes. And with COVID, we try not to combine the classes. So finding substitute, it would be a problem. So we went back to the drawing board. I went to the drawing board last night, again, and sat down and reworked some of this. And this is what I'm proposing to you after consulting with our people and talking with Ms. Roussel as well, that between now and Christmas, nothing is going to change. We're going to leave, and many school systems have taken back some of the Thanksgiving holidays, Christmas holidays. I mean, St. Tammany right now has the whole week of Mardi Gras, they're going to school. I mean, many systems have done different things. But what we're proposing to do, if you look at the calendar before you, that in November and December, those holidays just remain the same, that we're not touching it. But we have to push back the ending of the first semester because of the high school, the official ending of the first semester, because we wouldn't have had enough minutes to award the kids Carnegie Unit credits. So when you look at January, we are going to come back the same day, January 4th, which would have normally been the end of the first semester. But the end of the first semester is now going to be January 13th, that Thursday, which really means nothing in terms of changing types of days. It's just pushing back the ending. Our first real change is Tuesday, January 19th, was going to be a professional development day for teachers. We're going to change that to an instructional day for children. So the students would have been off the 19th, but they're coming to school on the 19th. Okay? Then we go into February, and we're proposing not to change that holiday period for Mardi Gras, that we would still be out those 5 days. We go to, March is no change. We go to April, and we would have had a holiday the 1st and 2nd, which would have been Holy Thursday and Good Friday, and the Monday and Tuesday after Easter. We are proposing to take Thursday, April 1st, and Tuesday, April 6th, and turn those into instructional days. Okay? And not change the end of the school year. But in order to do that, because we're just recapturing 2 holidays, the 1st and the 6th, we have to add 14 instructional minutes to each school day, beginning January 4th through the end of the school year. So, for example, if school is normally at the high school ends at 2:30, they would end at 2:44. The middle schools ending at 3 would end at 3:14. The elementaries that end at 3:30 would end at 3:44. And if they ended at 3:40, they end at 3:54. So adding 14 minutes to the end of the day. So recapping this, with missing all of those days the first semester, we can adhere to the mandated instructional minutes by adding 14 minutes to the school day from January 14th through January 4th through the end of the year, making the professional development day of January 19th into an instructional day, and then 2 of the Easter holiday days, the 1st and the 6th, into instructional days. So from the students' point of view, they're going to come to school on January 19th, April 1st, and April 6th, which had previously been holidays for them, 3 days. From the teacher's point of view, they would come an additional 2 days, the 1st and the 6th, because they already were going to be there on the 19th for PD, which would change into an instructional day. Does that kind of make sense?
Yes, right.
And this would give us only recapturing, 2 of those holidays from the teachers and adding the 14 minutes, so we have a combination. If we had tried to just add minutes, we would have had to add about 30 minutes to every day, and that really would have pushed the elementary too far back. The schools that ended at 3:40 would have been pushed back to 4:05. By the time the kids got home on the bus, it would be close to getting dark during the day. And then teachers some of them have classes that they're getting to after school, their own college classes, high school kids have jobs. I mean, it would have just been too much. But by doing that combination, we feel that we can satisfy everything and we can still have coverage for the kids. So that's the proposal that we're making for your consideration and adoption of the revised calendar.
Well, Ms. Foche, what about, this has been a crazy year, as we all know. What if we have a freeze? Each year we might have a freeze.
Uh-huh.
So,
a snowstorm coming. All right. No, look, it'll be 2021 and things are going to be better in 2021.
I know. I hope
okay?
so. I hope so. I pray, for that. Yeah. But we can make adjustments at that time. Right?
If we have to make adjustments, if anything else happens this year, then we're just going to have to come back and make an additional adjustment.
Right.
But I think what this is going to do, because, with all of that Mardi Gras week, with all of the planned vacations at that particular time, it would have been very difficult to get coverage for substitutes in classes, and we can't combine these classes. So that was really a problem that we were trying to avoid, to just keep that week open.
Thank you, Ms. Foche. Mr. Warner.
Thank you, Mr. England. I'd just like to make a motion to approve the administration's revised 2021 school calendar, the recommendation to the full board.
Okay, we got a first and we got a second by Ms. Dysart. Question by Ms. Jackson. Ms. Jackson?
So typically the second 9 weeks ends before Christmas vacation. Does this put the kids having to come back to school after the Christmas holiday and then take, exams and those types of things?
That's correct.
That may add some additional stress to the kids.
Right.
Usually it's all done, and then they have,
It's usually all done. And we looked at that too, because, look, I'm old enough, I can remember when I was in college, all the semesters ended after Christmas. We came back, I don't know how many of y'all are my age, but we used to have to come back in January, come to class, take exams and all.
Right.
But if we end on the 13th, which we will have been in school 8 days, to end on the 13th. So there's going to be time for the kids to review and take whatever test. So it's not going to be coming back and taking them right away. So while it's not the optimal, we're going to have to do it, because there's unless we took away Thanksgiving or Christmas, part of the Thanksgiving or Christmas holiday, we can't end before Christmas, because I can't issue Carnegie unit credit to the high school kids. So there's no way we can shorten that semester at all unless we take away Thanksgiving, 2 or 3 days of Thanksgiving, or 2 days of Thanksgiving or 2 days of Christmas, or do some kind of combination like that. But I can't, if I'm going all the way to January 13th, I would have to add days or take all of those days away to end before Christmas. Yeah.
Any other questions? Yeah. Any other questions from board members? Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Mr. Warner, second by Ms. Dysart. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? So move to the full board. Okay. Move on to item number 8. This is policy updates. Now, Ms. Alex Snyder is going to address these issues, these policies. And what we're going to do, fellow board members, we're going to take each one individually, okay? And then we're going to vote on each one individually, okay, to be sent to the full board or not sent to the full board without a recommendation, you know? So, Ms. Snyder?
Yeah.
Will we start with, first one is BCAD, teleconference remote participation in school board meetings.
Yeah, so right before I get started, I just wanted to do, I know we've done this a couple of times this year, but just to remind everybody, we are going to go through individually. We do have 9 policies for your consideration tonight. All of these policies were written in collaboration with Forethought Consulting. That is who does the vast majority of policies throughout the state. I want to say upwards of 60 of the districts use Forethought. And so they send us a draft policy, we review it, we make some adjustments with them, and then we propose it to you all. So we'll be going through those 9. They do have to do with a wide range of things, so we're going to take them one at a time and let you look at them all the way from purchasing and cybersecurity training to teleconferencing for school board meetings, interim superintendencies, and several other things. And so I also want to remind you all that all of our policies are on our website. We have purchased and are working with Forethought's CAPS program, and you can find that under the school board section of our website. And CAPS really is an interactive online tool that allows you not only to see our policies but also to search. So if there's something that you wanted to see more of tonight, you can go through that search button and say maybe purchasing, and all of the policies that had to do with purchasing are there. We're also going to provide you all, I know Mr. Warner had asked for an updated jump drive, so we'll have that for you guys as well after this. As I go through each of the policies in your packet, what you guys are going to have is the first thing you're going to see is an overview sheet, and that just kind of tells you, here are the 9 policies, here's the summary. Following that, and as we look at BCAD, which is going to be the first policy we jump in, if it's a new policy, at the top left corner you'll see new. We do have 1 or 2 new policies. The vast majority are going to be revisions or updated policies. And then you'll see the policy that is being proposed. Behind it, if it was a revised policy, you'll see the revised policy. Anything in red that is being striped out, and anything in blue is being added to that policy. And so, with that being said, and always, behind each of those is going to be the law of the act that was passed that caused us to go ahead and change the policy. So you have each of those in each of your paper-clipped packets. So we'll start with BCAD, which is the teleconference and remote participation in school board meetings. So this is a new policy within our section B of our policy manual, which covers school board operations. In response to the pandemic, legislatures enacted the revised statute to allow public entities to conduct meetings through electronic means during a gubernatorial declared emergency or public health emergency affecting the public entity. Act essentially statutorily authorized virtual meetings already taking place and provided additional guidance, which is included in this policy. Of particular note, this policy requires that if or when you all decided to hold a virtual school board meeting, school board must provide a mechanism for public comment electronically prior to and during the meeting itself. Boards are also required to identify and acknowledge all public comments and include them in the recording of the virtual meeting. That is policy BCAD.
Okay. Any questions for Ms. Snyder? Not being any questions, do we need a motion to send it to the full board with a recommendation or without a recommendation?
Well, I'm just still kind of digesting a little bit before I formulate a question.
Ms. Dysart?
Ms. Schneider, with the remote participation in providing a mechanism to receive public comment electronically both prior and during the meeting, how is that going to work? Or how can that work realistically? Prior to the meeting? Like so many minutes prior to the meeting? Or do we have anything spelled out as far as how we're going to meet that requirement?
We took a look at this when were considering the virtual meetings. We do have the software in place. We can set up a Zoom meeting, which would allow, you send out the link. It allows people to come on and listen. It allows them to participate in public. So we do have the software. We do have the capacity to do this if we have to do it. Now,
But prior to the meeting, it says comments prior to the meeting.
well, if they had when you do that, it's sort of, we want to talk about such and such a policy. You know how we have to say which item you want to speak on and all that. So we have to have the capacity to accept that. So we would come on maybe 10 minutes or so prior to the meeting to let anyone, if they had something that they have to ask, whatever. You have to make sure that the public has accessibility, not only to see everything you're doing, but to participate in it. So whatever mechanism, like right now, if somebody wanted to speak on a particular item, they're supposed to sign up and sign a card that says, when they come, I wish to participate, I wish to speak on item number 6 or something. And you have that, so you call on the person. Well, they may be telling us prior to the meeting, well, I want to speak on item number 7 or number 8 or whatever. So we're getting that information prior to. So we have to have the capacity to allow some form of participation by the public. So prior to the meeting, they tell us what items, because everything's posted, agendas are on the website, and everything is either on the building, on the website, and we have to be ready to accept that. Because, when this law was passed, because you have a law behind it, there was much concern about if entities, we'll just have a virtual meeting and do it quickly, and it wouldn't give the public or afford the public the rights that they do have to speak to any particular item. So they wanted to ensure it, and this is the policy that has been written to do that. And it mimics, if you read the law itself, just about everything it says.
Okay.
So we do have the software and the capability to do it, but we would not do it lightly. This would have to be something, if we had a situation where we actually could not meet because of a public health emergency or something, then we can go ahead and broadcast.
So we would
As long as
structure-
we had the internet.
Yeah, right. Didn't lose power on
Yeah,
cable.
as long as we had
Internet,
power.
Right.
Yeah.
So we would structure it in a way that they would be able to declare that they wanted to speak on those items prior to the meeting, and then, of course, during the meeting also.
Right. Well, they would tell us prior to the meeting, okay, when y'all get to item 6, I want to speak on that.
Right. Okay.
Now, I'm sure that this board, if we ever got to that situation and somebody clicked on it a little later, we would have some leniency on letting them speak prior to any of the items without signing up. But that would be something y'all would decide as we went along. But we would try to keep as much as possible to the general procedures that we have, still making sure that the public has the right of input.
I was just trying to think
I know,
about the
it's hard to vision.
logistics of that.
Well, I
Okay,
tell you,
thank
Ms.
you.
Dysart, if we ever get to that point, we will work out the logistics.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dysart. Ms. Fulcher, as far as if they do speak prior to the vote, okay, once the vote's taken,
That's
there's no
it.
more discussion in, right?
That's correct.
Okay, I just wanted to make that clear.
Actually, what you normally do, what y'all normally do, is they speak prior to your discussion.
Okay.
So they would
Right.
speak, and then the board would, after hearing them, have the discussion, and then take the vote.
Right, but the main thing is that they don't follow discussion afterwards.
Oh, no.
Right, okay. Mr. Warner?
We would have to announce and post that we were having a virtual meeting for this policy to take effect, correct?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Another question I have, for the virtual meeting, do you have to have the 24-hour notification that you're gonna have this? The same-
Right.
same
We would
amount of
still
time?
do the notification, just like when we post on our website that we have a meeting, we always post the location, you know, where it's gonna be. Well, we would post, we'll have a meeting, but it'll be a virtual meeting, and then we would have to supply the link for the people to get on.
And then the person that is asking, that does want to participate in the meeting, they would be live streamed into us, or would it just be a picture? I mean, how do we know that that is be a live person there, or a picture, or?
Well, we might not see them, we would just at least have to hear them. They would have to identify themselves, and we would hear them.
Right.
Now, we may not be able to broadcast them to everyone else looking at it, but the people looking at it would hear their question coming in.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna be against meeting virtually.
Well, I think we only need to do that. As they say, when you have a declared state of an emergency and you really can't have one out in public, and many public bodies did that during the pandemic, but what y'all did was we socially distanced, we had the masks, we took the temperature, we made sure that the people, just like we're doing tonight, so we made provisions and felt that we could go ahead and have in-person meetings. But this would only be in the case that the board would feel that we should not have one in person and that it must be virtual.
Okay, if you hear a motion.
I'll make a motion that we adopt policy BCAD, teleconference remote participation in school board meetings.
We have a motion by Mr. Warner, second by Mr. Lemoyne. Any further questions on this item? Or this policy, I should say. Being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved to the full board. Okay, move on to policy CBD, employment of superintendent update.
Great.
Snyder?
Okay, CBD, Employment of Superintendent, is an updated policy. This is included in our general school administration section of our manual. As an updated policy, you will see the revised policy first, what you guys would be adopting, followed by the old policy with the highlights and revisions, followed then by the law. The policy revision is in response to Act 292, which amended the Louisiana Revised Statutes 1781 and 1754. The policy addresses the selection, and I would imagine this will probably never happen, but the selection of an interim superintendent, and further details that role, as well as any reasons to place the superintendent on administrative leave.
Okay, questions?
And just to further elaborate a little bit, in the law, there was never a provision to appoint someone as an interim superintendent. So when you appoint as a superintendent, you had, where you had to advertise, and there were certain procedures you had to go through. Well, there are times where you don't have time to do that, and you want someone to serve for a 3-month period while you're doing a search, or someone either, I hate to say it, passes away or resigns without a whole lot of notice, and you have to put someone at the helm. So to rectify this, this was passed, and really the only changes are specifics on how to appoint. If you look at that, the revised policy, you see the old one and then what's in blue, procedures to appoint an interim. And it says you can only do it for the 3-month period if you do it this way, or 6 months of the last 12 months. So it gives the school boards an opportunity to put someone in temporarily while you're searching for a permanent replacement. And you never had that ability before this. So this is
It's a good change.
Yeah, it's a good change. It gives you the latitude to put someone in on a temporary basis for a very short period of time while you're searching for a permanent superintendent.
Makes good sense. Okay, any questions for Ms. Foche or Ms. Snyder? We need a motion to go to the full board. Moved by Ms. Dysart, second by Mr. Smith. Any further questions? All in favor of this policy change or update?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved to the full board. Okay, move on to policy DJE, purchasing, update.
Great, so we have two policies tonight that are really going to look at our fiscal management. Policy DJE is purchasing. This policy was revised in response to Act 265 of the 2020 Louisiana Legislature and addresses qualified group purchasing organizations. The statute now allows for purchase through a qualified group purchasing organization if either the price is less than that for the same or substantially similar materials, equipment, or supplies on the state contract, or bid lists, or if the same or substantially similar materials, equipment, or supplies are not under state contract or on the state bid list. One of the other things you will notice to this policy revision is we have removed, and you'll see this if you look to the last, the procurement method chart, which was originally included, and that was really just removed because every time that had changed, we had to go back, and so in order not to have that fluctuate so often, we've removed that from this section.
Okay. Questions from board?
I'll make a motion that we approve policy DJE. We're doing a little bit of this now, I believe, purchasing within groups.
Right, yes.
So we're doing a little bit of this now.
Tips.
And this
Which
is
y'all
just,
approved that before, yes.
so,
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Warner, second by Mr. Smith. Any further questions on this update of purchasing? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So move to the full board. Okay, policy DJED, bids and quotations. This is another update. Ms. Snyder?
So this one this one will be a little bit easier. The major change in this policy was the contract limit for public works has been raised from $150,000 to $250,000.
So everything remains the same on the bids, on the quotations.
And what that is, if you had a public works, like if we had a roof that had to be fixed or something, if you had a public works project prior to this for under the $150,000, it was really $152,400, but then all you had to do was go get 3 quotes and have it done. You wouldn't have to go through a formal bid process, which takes like 2 months, unless you declare something an emergency. So this piece of legislation hadn't been updated in years, so they raised the threshold to $250,000. So if we had a project where we wanted to put up an overhang in a school, or we wanted to do some minor improvement, and now if it's under $250,000, we could just solicit 3 quotes and take the lowest of the 3 quotes and not have to go through a 2-month bid process.
But you'd still have to come to the board.
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily, you just do it.
We could just do it internally, because just like when we do other purchases and we have to get quotes,
Right.
we would not have to then come to the board for a formal process that would give the administration the ability to get the quotes up to
Okay.
the $250,000. Now, we would, I would tell you about it, or we're doing this, or we're doing that, and we have the appropriate quotes.
Right.
But we wouldn't have to formally do a bid and a board approval.
Right. As long as the board's updated, because you're raising from 150 to 250, we're getting up a few dollars there. Right, okay.
Not anymore.
Touche.
It's like before Katrina, I used to say, if someone had come to me and said, I'm going to donate $1 million to the school system, I would be, oh my God, isn't that wonderful? After Katrina, if you'd say $1 million, we'd say, was that all?
Yeah, right.
Because it cost $33 million to build a school, But anyway.
Okay. So, all right, any questions? Mr. Long?
I'll just make a motion to accept the policy change for policy file DJED.
That's second by Ms. Lemoyne. Any further questions on this item or this update on the policy? Being none, all in favor? Any opposed? Sent to the full board for this update. Okay, move on to policy EFC, Business Continuity and Technology Disaster Recovery. This is new.
This will be a new policy. This will be added to our business management section of your policy manual. And this legislation, along with the policy, is really in response to all the cyber attacks we saw during the 2019 calendar year. And so Forethought, in collaboration with technology consultants, drafted this policy. Our team has looked at it. Ms. Lametta, who's really leading that team, has taken a really close look. And what this policy is going to do is going to do two things. The first is going to require cybersecurity training for all staff who have direct access to our school system's technology assets. The second thing that this policy really outlines is a technology and business continuity plan in the case that there is an emergency. So the procedure outlines within this policy were developed by Forethought with the technology consultants to be able to respond to things that we saw in 2019 with the cybersecurity attacks.
Okay. Any questions?
So for new employees that have to do some additional training,
So it won't be all of our staff. We do have, and as we go through this policy, you'll see that there's another policy up for tonight that is going to involve all staff. This is really for staff that have access to that specialized form of technology. As I talked to our team, this is something that almost all of them already had. It was just ensuring the fact that they had that additional bit of training.
who develops the training? We develop the training? Mr. Lametta develops the training?
So I'd have to ask Ms. Lametta on who the training is. Most of that is through certification. So any of the consultants that we have contracted out with are certified in that realm. If there was certain training, we have contracted out with a company called Safe Schools to do all of our trainings that really are required by law. They also have a very long suite of trainings if by any chance we needed to find a training. But I think for the most part, we have that under control, or those people were actually trained as they got certified to be able to work for us.
Good answer.
Covered it all.
Okay,
I'll make
Mr.
a
Smith.
motion to approve.
Okay, Mr. Smith. Second, Ms. Lamont. Any further questions? Something's sticking in my mind, the wheels are starting to spin a little bit on this one. You know, there's a security on this. That's what my main concern is, you know, somebody hacking into our system. You know, what backups, you know, are in place.
Ask Ms. Lametta to walk up, because she explained to me the backup system we had
Right.
just the other day. So I
Right.
know she can explain it to you.
Right,
Okay.
that's
sure.
what's spinning right now.
Sure, and great job so far, Alex. We have a 3-tiered backup system. We have an on-site Dell compellent backup system where we back up our data. Secondly, we have a NAS backup that we do a secondary backup. It's where you wouldn't want to back up, say, your documents on your desktop to your My Documents, because it's
Right.
the same machine. If your computer crashes, you're losing everything. So we have a second hard disk space where we back up everything. Additionally, we have a cloud Synology backup
Okay, cloud,
that we
okay.
back up to the cloud. So our data
Okay.
is backed up in 3 tiers. But truly, almost every application we have now is hosted. And what I
Okay.
mean by that is our eSchool student information system is hosted online on their servers. So it's not in our servers, it can't be touched here, it's on the company servers. Our email is hosted by Microsoft on their servers, it's not here,
Right.
it can't be touched. Our air conditioned system and our HVAC and our Munis system are the only 2 we currently have here. Our lunch system is hosted by the company. Our Destiny library system is hosted by the company. Most school systems moved to hosted with the cyber attacks that were coming. We had a plan and we were progressively moving everything to hosted before the cyber attacks. And fortunately, with the cyber attacks, more and more school districts and systems are hosting, so the prices came way down. So in most cases, the price we were paying for support to keep our own servers working, keep functionality to our own servers, was more than it would cost to let the company host it and let them bear the cost of keeping their servers up and keeping the security. So as more and more districts came onto hosting, the price came down, so it was more cost effective to host it anyway.
Right.
So we only have 2 systems right now. They're not hosted, that's our HVAC system, but we're currently in the process of getting that hosted in the next couple of months. And then we have our Munis system that we're also currently in the process of getting hosted. The only other servers we have would be our domain controllers, which are servers that give out IP addresses for people to get online, and our users authenticate to those when they log into our system. Secondly, we do have some file servers. Our teachers have what we call P drives, which are personal drives they can save data to, which wouldn't be to a flash drive. It would be to a piece or section or a portion of our server. And then we have our teacher share drive, where anyone in the district can save things on when we allot them some space. So other than our file servers, our domain controllers, our HVAC system, and our HVAC and our Munis, that's all we really have left here. Everything
Okay.
else
It's out.
is hosted. The nice thing of that for our employees is you can access it via the web. So they no longer have to try to get a cloud connection and remotely connect. They can do anything they need to remotely. So it was very helpful when we did have to go off to virtual and people had to stay home in the spring. And thank goodness we had already been moving in that direction. It had most things hosted before last spring anyway. So we're down to our last two. Because there is a process to get each one
Right.
hosted, migrated, verified, and then get training on the new system. So, but we do have a 3-tier backup for what we do have left. And with that cloud backup that we have, we can get a server, and from that cloud backup, spin up a server and get everything rolling on a new server from the cloud if that need would arise.
Right. Well, that makes me feel much better, I promise.
Yes, and we also have something called Sentinel-1 as our virus protection. It's an amazing virus protection. It's used by many airlines and banks.
Right.
It's extremely powerful, and it gives us the ability to back a computer up to a certain time if something happened. We can, from anywhere, clean a computer, shut it down, cut it off the network, and take complete control of anything that could be causing a problem from home. We can do it from home. Any of our technology staff who have access to the assets, like Ms. Snyder was talking about earlier. So we put that in last school year.
Right.
So we have a wonderful protection system in addition to the servers we do have on site are really locked down, and most of our servers are hosted anyway. So there's not really much they could get to here anyway.
Very
Now
good.
you know
Very
why
good.
we called Ms.
I understand that. Very good, Ms. O'Malley.
Okay.
Thank you for your explanation. Right. Okay, so we have a motion by Mr. Smith, second by Ms. Lemoyne. Any further questions? I think that was answered fully, that, yes. If not being, to have we got the motion, do we have a vote on it? Approval? Okay. Do we have anybody oppose it? No?
No.
Okay. So move to the full board. Okay. All right. Okay, move on to update for the GBDA employment or retirement personnel.
Great.
Mr.
So, as you can guess from the name of this policy is in relation to our personnel section of our policy manual, and this is an updated policy in response to Act 337. What you'll see if you look at the revised policy, which is the second policy, most of the revisions on this policy happen on page 2 and 3, and there is quite a bit of addition to this policy, but in summary, or in general, the things to note is that this policy provides those who are retired and who return back to work varying payment options. And this policy and the corresponding law also require that the school system provide additional notification to the teacher retirement system, or TRSL. So this policy and the law outline those two things within this section. And our personnel team has taken a look at this and are already doing all of this.
Okay, questions from Ms. Snyder? I have a motion. Mr. Campbell makes a motion. Second by Ms. Jackson. Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Now, let's just remind everybody, you do have, before the next board meeting, we can come up with more questions at that time at the full board, because this is a lot of documentation that you're digesting right now, and so you might have some further questions at the next meeting, so you can bring that up at that time. Okay, we'll go on to IDFAB, sports injury management and concussions. It's an update.
This is an updated policy within our instructional program portion of the manual, and this revised policy is in response to Act 259, which amended the Louisiana Revised Statute 40-1087. Dave Rossett was, I went to him as soon as we got this policy. He had been working on this for months at this point. Many of the coaches and the athletic directors already knew this was coming and had been really working hard on this. But essentially, this policy expands provisions for sports injury management in schools. And the major change here is the new requirement is that each sport that takes place on a school campus have a comprehensive emergency action plan, in particular a chain of command if a student or an athlete were to get hurt during the game. These plans need to be reviewed annually and meet best practices as outlined by the American College of Sports Medicine and the National Athletic Trainers Association. There was also new language added to this policy regarding heat acclimation and wet bulb temperatures. And as I mentioned, our athletic director and Dave Bressett had really been on top of this. They had been working on this throughout the summer and did meet with all of the coaches during PD Day in November to go through this.
And we have ours written.
Yes, sir.
This one just it seems pretty straightforward to me. I'll make a motion that we approve policy IDFAB, sports injury management and concussion.
Okay, have a motion by Mr. Warner, second by Mr. Smith. Any further questions? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So move with the update to the full board. Okay, it goes on to the next policy is JBH, attendance reports for student drivers, update.
Okay, so this is another update. All of our J policies are within our student section of the manual. This policy, as did our previous policy, required documentation be provided regarding a student's attendance in order to receive a learner's permit or their driver's license. Basically, this is a procedural change. Prior to this, the Louisiana Department of Ed gave the students a report, the principal would sign off. Now we are required to provide that documentation ourselves, so the State Department will not be doing that. This also, and one of the things that we had previously adopted was an optional policy which would give the high schools the option to revoke or suspend driver's license or learning permits for students who are truant or have habitual absences. And so that policy also addresses that.
Okay. Any questions from Ms. Snyder?
I like this one.
You want that?
Well,
They don't go to school.
First,
or they
well, first of
influence
all, we don't have the right to deny the permit to anyone. All we can do is send the information to the authorities there at the driver's license place with that recommendation. So I just want to make that clear. So we send that documentation to that department, okay?
Mr. Smith?
Make a motion, we accept JDH.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Smith, second by Ms. Dysart. Any further questions on this policy update? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So move to the full board for the update. Okay, policy JGCE, child abuse. Ms. Snyder.
So there's a slight revision to this policy as well. As I had mentioned with Mr. Warner's question about training, we utilize Safe Schools for all of our trainings that are required by law. We have been requiring teachers this, for years and years and years to do the mandatory reporting training and child abuse training. And that within the last few years has been on that platform. Previously, principals conducted that at their school site. This revision to this policy and the corresponding legislation was that we now use a specific training that has been developed by the Department of Children and Family Services. This would be similar to our Louisiana ethics training, which we have a series of trainings that are kind of more or less canned through Safe Schools, and there are specific trainings that the state of Louisiana requires that they produce. This is moving into that category.
Okay, questions from Ms. Snyder? Mr. Long?
I'll move that we approve the updated file JGCE, child abuse.
Okay. Have a second by Ms. White. Any further questions? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So move to the full board for this update. Ms. Snyder, thank you.
Yeah, before we move on to the next item, I want to thank you, Mr. England, for handling that pretty significant agenda item, and you too, Ms. Schneider, for being the keeper of the policy.
Right.
That's it. One of your hats you wear around here.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
Okay, move on to item number 9, Ms. Jackson.
Next up, we have the revised 2020-2021 general fund and special revenue fund budget.
Okay. In your package, you have the first budget revision for this year that we're presenting. It's actually, there's 4 attachments, 3 of which relate to the general fund budget, and 1 relates to special revenue funds budgets. Basically, this is just a technical revision where we are going in and making a couple of adjustments to revenues based on actual numbers we received. We're also going in and adding in year-end encumbrances into our budget and reappropriating those amounts, and adding any fund balance for special programs to add those back into the budget as well, so they'll be available to be spent. Basically, the major highlights in the revenues, we, in the general fund, we adjusted the MFP allocation to the actual allocation for 2020-2021. If you remember, in the spring, when we adopted the original budget, we used last year's MFP amount. They've now finalized the MFP allocations for this year, so we use the actual MFP, initial MFP allocation. Now, there may be some adjustments later in the year that will reflect in our next budget revision. We've also adjusted some of the grants. The 1 grant in the general fund that changed was the Education Excellence Fund, which that reflects the actual allocation for this year as well. In the expenditures, in Exhibit 3, you can see we've just gone in and added all those encumbrance amounts that were outstanding at year-end back into our budget, so that it will reflect that amount as well as any outstanding fund balances that are carried over to the new year. In terms of the special revenue funds, we have a listing, and basically we're just presenting the actual final allocations for this year, or the current allocations for this year for the different funds, and you will see those listed on Exhibit 4. And basically that's it. I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. Any questions?
Yeah, if you don't mind, Mr. Fernandez, on Exhibit 2, what is the Education Excellence Fund?
Education Excellence Fund is a grant that comes through, if you recall, many years ago, the tobacco litigation settlement that state had. They took some of that money and put it on the side in a fund to support different efforts. And one of them is to support in K-12 education, basically, I believe, preschool and libraries, and I think maybe technology. We use it for our preschool program, to support our universal preschool program. So there's 2 portions to it. One is a pot of money that is that we can go into if we need to, and the rest is an annual allocation that we get every year. This is the annual allocation for this year, our portion of it.
Right, and when we decided to do the universal 4-year-old program, we knew that we would have to add some money in over and above when we funded it, as you know, through Head Start, some HE money, Louisiana 4, and then there were kids that didn't qualify for any of those programs. So we had to come up with a local allocation for all the other 4-year-olds, because the 4-year-olds are not funded through the MFP. So this is one of the funding sources that we decided to dedicate years ago to help fund the local effort for the universal 4-year-old program.
Yes, I see we got an additional $112,000 this year from them. Is that because
Yes.
that fund performed better, or?
I think that was just a reallocation of some monies. I think there was some extra monies that were carried over from last year that they just reallocated to different districts.
And our MFP, we're on the plus side is there as well.
Yes.
A couple of $100,000. So it looks like we're trending upward on our collections and sales tax and our
Hopefully it
budget.
keeps on going up.
Yeah, well, that gets to my other question. You know, all the programs and advances in technology that we're trying to keep up with, it seems like the cost for our delivery system to provide education is going up on that side, on the expense side of the equation. So,
Yes.
do you see that trending upward as well?
It's going to be a continuing expense now. As you know, we bought a lot of devices this year for the virtual schooling, prepared for that. And there is some of these federal funds all to address that, basically the Strong Start funds. Allowed us to buy a lot of devices, a lot of the connectivity expenses are covered. But going forward, we will have a continuing expense for replacement of devices and the like.
Software
And we-
improvements,
And that's something we build into our
technology
budget every year. We keep track, we have kind of like a long-range plan of what we expect our replacement expenses to be, and we build that into our different budgets.
You see, if you look back on the special revenue funds, Strong Start, right, David?
Yes, ma'am.
If you look on the last page in Exhibit 4, and you see the ad valorem monies in Title I, Title II, all the different titles, special ed, Head Start, all this federal funding that we get, the very last column on that second page says Strong Start 2020. And there are 3 components to this. There's a regular, you heard it called the CARES Act when you hear it on television. So we got 3 pieces to that this year. The governor got $50 million to dispense to K-12 and higher education. And of that $50 million that he got, he sent $35 million of it to K-12 education that was dispersed to all K-12 schools in the state. So we got a portion of that. I think it was 400 and some odd thousand, if I remember right.
Do they use a formula based off of the population, student population?
Right.
Okay.
And then the other CARES money, we got a major portion under what they call just the regular CARES allocation. And then there was some incentive money that could be used for only specific purposes. So we got another 450,000 or so from incentive money. So that together was about, what, 900,000 if I'm thinking of it. So we got a little over 2 point something million for the regular CARES Act money that expected to last us 2 years, hopefully, you know. And that's where we bought all of the Chromebooks for the school system to make sure everybody was one-to-one, where we're paying for hotspots, for connectivity, for kids that don't have the connectivity, all the sanitation, all the supplies related to COVID, and a lot of the online programs and such that we had to put in virtually just to get going with this. So those monies were provided to get us started. Now, we've got this 2-year period now to figure out how we're going to sustain it, what parts of it we're going to keep, what parts of it we're not going to keep. When we looked at Chromebooks, a Chromebook for us cost us a little over $200. If I can remember right, David, you might have the number more in mind, but I think it comes to about $220 or $225 when we put in, and Mary can explain it to you a little bit more, but we put in some kind of Google thing on it that lets it do everything we need it to do when the kid takes it home, okay? Whatever protections we put in and oversight so that we can control the machine, you know. So it costs us about $225. Now, you know, we're used to saying textbooks and things like this. And if you've ever been to college recently, you know what a textbook costs these days. upward almost to $100 sometimes, $100 for a textbook. So you're looking at these Chromebooks, these devices that we're putting out at least $220. Then for the look, I learn all this stuff. I listen to Mary, I listen to David. We look at all these budgetary items. The charger for the Chromebook, the specialized one, is $50. So that's another $50 added on to it. And then if you have to give the kid the hotspot for connectivity, that's on top of it, and you're paying for its service as well. So right now, all of this is coming out of this Strong Start allocation so that we don't have to go into our general fund at the moment. Now, when we get to the point where we're going to have to replenish these things, because things get broken, things get lost, wear down, just its normal useful life, we have to look at Chromebooks as really, these are our textbooks of the future. I'm still the kind that keeps a paper calendar. And then you look at a Mary Lumetta, who's younger, is the kind that everything is on a device. So as our kids are growing up, they're used to doing everything on their devices. So these Chromebooks and the materials that we're putting on it are really taking the place of instructional materials that we normally would have bought that are more conventional books, paper, pencil type things. So I guess to make a long story a little bit shorter, we have gotten a large infusion of cash to set us up to where we're able, and we were in better shape, and I have to say this before we got this allocation. We have been moving toward this. And there are still school systems in the state, even with these allocations, are nowhere near the one-on-one on the devices, being able to make sure that every child within their system has access to the internet. We've been very fortunate. We've done a good job, I think, and this board has done a great job in fiscal management as we work together on this, to where all of our kids have access, regardless of their status or their home issues. So every one of our children has access at some point. So to keep it up, we have to then, as we go into the future, a larger part of our general fund will have to be allocated to maintain the technology that we have, the individual technology for our children, and also the technology we need to run the school district. Because everything you do, and those of you I know who are in private business and such, you know what the costs are as they escalate to maintain what you have to maintain in your business arena from a technology point of view. So we're planning for that, we're on top of that. I want the public to understand that all of this technology we're providing to our children costs money. And we are doing our very best to do that within the revenues that we currently have. And as you can see, I know that a lot of other places are having many more issues than we are at the moment. And we are fiscally sound at the moment. We've had that discussion before. Mr. Warner has brought that up before. So we're doing fine. We are moving along. We're maintaining all of our employees. We're not having to go in to reduce staff at this time, and we're maintaining what we have to do at this point. So, and I'm sure that with the talent that we have in the school system, we can continue to do so. I guess that's it.
I just have one other question. So I see that there's been an amendment to the line item for repair and upkeep of buildings. Is that taking into consideration damages from the hurricane? Because it's only a $50,000 adjustment.
No, that's just adding in the encumbrances at year end. The damages from the hurricane, we'll have to see how much they are. Most of it hopefully will be covered by insurance and FEMA that we'll be applying to for FEMA reimbursement. And if not, it'll be incorporated into the April budget revision. But we're confident that most of it will be covered by those sources.
Okay.
Mr. Warner had asked me to kind of give a report of that under the superintendent's recommendations. Would you like me to just do it now within the confines of the budget, or wait?
Sure, go for it. Yeah.
Which way would you, okay. And
Yeah.
David can add in if I'm missing anything. But the major damage we had as a result of the hurricane was obviously the roof at St. Bernard Middle, where a major portion of it was torn off. Now, we were very lucky, according to Jason, as we were looking at it, it was like an 18 inches thick. So as this thing was being torn off, it did not allow the rain or the water to get in, so the floor was fine. So we didn't have damage to the gym floor. But when the adjusters came for the roof, there's massive damage on that roof. So we think that it's going to necessitate a full roof replacement. And we're waiting for the report. I know David and Jason met with the adjuster this past week, and we think that is what the final report is going to say. Now, in the meantime, we've taken the emergency measures, we've done the repair, everything's watertight, everything's fine, classes are going on as normal. But we're going to be coming to the board relatively soon as we get this together, with a proposal probably to replace the entire roof. Now, we know with the insurance, we have a 5% named storm deductible, and it's 5% of the overall value of that location. And that overall value of the location, when you add in the building and contents and all, is about $70 million. I think it was 70 million, if I'm right. So when you take,
Your deductible was $3.5 million.
no, it was more than 350,000. It was going to be 800 and something.
Deductible's 800,000, so it's
So
like,
it's got to be more than that. So, because I was figuring out about 800,000 for the deductible, right? Or tell me,
Right.
back into that number. All I know is it's a very large deductible. And it's really going to.
70 million, well, 10% of 70
70
million would be
million
7
is
million. So if it's a 5%?
It's 140 million?
Wow.
No.
No, you said that.
Yeah, I know, I'm thinking of how am I getting to the $800,000?
Oh, okay.
You know, that, how am I getting to the 800,000?
it's a location total, I don't know.
I know, but
I didn't bring those numbers.
We'll sit there and do the math. But anyway, the bottom line is, it's going to be a very large deductible. So that deductible, but we still think we know the replacement cost on the roof is going to exceed the deductible. So the insurance company will be responsible for some of that roof replacement. Then we go to FEMA. Now, we all know we have maintained insurance on our buildings as a result of the last one, and we had to maintain all the appropriate insurances to make sure that if we had additional damage, we could go back to FEMA and say, now we want to claim additional damages on the storm. So that part of our, whatever the deductible is, or whatever the insurance isn't going to cover, we can claim that through FEMA, and it depends on what that cost share is going to be. It begins with a 75-25% split, where we're going to still be responsible for at least 25% of the cost that we would have to pay. FEMA could pay up to they could pay 75%. If there's tremendous damage because of this particular hurricane, then that cost, but that would have to be a statewide issue. That cost share could increase, as it did with Katrina, where we got 100% of it back. It could increase to 90%. But I'm not sure if this particular storm would have enough damage statewide that the cost share from the federal government would increase. So we're hoping to recoup whatever we pay out, we're hoping to recoup 75% of that. So that would significantly decrease the amount of money we would have to put toward that new roof. And if you remember, we have that ad valorem fund that you see on these back pages, where our parish
Maintenance and repair.
voted to allow us to take that $5.5 million and put into that ad valorem maintenance fund just for things like this. So that we should, and we've got about $4 million in there now.
Yes.
If I look at this sheet, yeah.
4 million.
Well, 5 maybe. 5 at this point.
Well, at the end of, that's at the end of the year. Right now, we got 4,012,000, so.
Oh, that's projected.
Good
Okay,
guess.
4 million, we got a little over 4 million in there. So we have the money that we can pay to replace that roof, what our portion's gonna be. So I feel very comfortable, because that's the planning that we all did together, that we had done, remember, right after Katrina hit, and we looked at, when those mills rolled off, trying to get that maintenance fund set up, which the voters of the parish agreed with us, so that we would have the money to replace what we needed to replace, just for a situation like this. So, you know, good planning is good results. Now, we have, I guess to complete some of this report, we did have some minor damage at some of the other places, you know, like flashing and gutter cans and downspouts. And so we're assessing that now. And what we're going to do is, whatever the minor damages were at all of our other sites, we're putting all of that together, and that obviously the insurance company is going to pay for none of that, because that'll never meet a deductible amount. But we will then present that to FEMA as well, and hope to recoup 75% of those expenditures as well. So now we're in another mode of the paperwork. We've got to get the assessments done. You know, we have to get the adjusters out, then we have to get the assessments done, then we're gonna have to actually do the work, get the paperwork done, file with FEMA, go through all of that process. But we're up to it, we're pros at it, we know how to do it.
They know you by name.
We know how to do it, and we're gonna proceed in that manner. So our hope is that the damage and I feel confident the damage as a result of the storm, from a financial standpoint, we're going to be able to take care of that without any problems whatsoever. And we will be bringing that roof replacement to you, because that's going to obviously be a biddable item. We're going to have to design it, go through the bid process, and get that roof replaced.
No, just passed a new policy making us do that.
Didn't we just replace something at Triss, a roof at Triss?
Right.
It was another building though, right?
Yeah, wasn't it? Yeah. Well, we did it was just over the gym, but it wasn't that much money. It was still under that 150,000.
Yeah, it was under the limit.
It was under the limit of that.
So it was the gym, it was the same gym, or was it a different gym? Or?
No, that was the Triss
That was
gym.
at Triss. This is the St. Bernard Middle.
Oh, okay,
This
I'm
is
sorry.
St. Bernard Middle.
I think Ms. Acevedo had a question.
Yeah, what is the age on the roof? Was the whole thing replaced after Katrina?
No.
No.
That roof was not totally replaced. I don't know how much of it was replaced, but that, I know that whole roof was not replaced after Katrina.
Okay.
Not in that spot.
That's all I wanted to know.
Well, I'll make a motion, Ms. Jackson, that we approve the.
Could I say one other thing before we close out this? Sure. And that way I won't have to say it at the end. We do have a situation at Miro Elementary that came up this week. We don't know if it's related to the storm or not, but there was a leakage that went under the gym floor. They think it's got something to do between the cinder block wall and the restroom there. Some of the floor is buckling, so we already got emergency restoration in. We have half the gym that we're still using for classes, but we've cordoned off the other half of the gym, and we've got American leak detection in there to see exactly if there's a leak from the slab, it's coming from between the wall or whatever. So we are going to have a cost at that point to fix that, and the floor, that wood floor in the gym, has sustained damage on a part of it. Have no idea of the extent or what the cost will be at that point, but we're moving forward with that. And when we get these people in and find out the source, then we'll have to decide whether or not it's related or not related to the storm itself, and then proceed from that point about how we would fund and recoup, if we can, any of those costs. that may not be a recoverable cost, but we do have the monies within this fund to pay for whatever we need to restore that floor. Okay.
Ms. Dysart had a question as well.
Yes, I had a quick question on getting back to the budget with the special revenues. The Louisiana School Mental Health, can you briefly describe the programs that we provide in that category?
There was a special grant that we applied for with the State Department about a year ago, if you may or may not remember, where 3 school systems received it, and it was a 3-year grant. And you look at it, it's $551,000 this year, and it's at Raleigh Alternative School, where we put in additional. We partnered with the Methodist Foundation, who runs our school-based health clinic. We have 4 additional social workers on staff there that we partnered with them to pay for those. Those people are not our employees. We contract their services. They're there every day for those kids. We have the partnership with LSU Medical School there as well, as you know, where they supply a team of people. I think when you saw the Super News today, and Mr. Cipollone, who, by the way, is doing an excellent job at Raleigh Elementary, he and Tanisha Sanchez-Irvin, who is the assistant principal there, together they're doing a remarkable job that when you walk in that school, you can just feel the difference and the positivity there. So we have additional services for those children who attend that school and their families through social work services, and then a team from LSU that comes in that's composed of a psychiatrist, psychologist, and some support staff there. So that's that mental health grant that we received, but it's specific to that school at this point. So we wanted to see what we could do to provide the services to those children and the families that attend that school.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, so we have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second? All right, I guess all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson. Okay, next item on the agenda, superintendent's recommendations.
Well, I think I've I've done a lot of talking tonight, and I've completed my remarks. Thank you, Ms. Dysart.
Thank you, Ms. Voce. And also, you have the superintendent's evaluation in your folder, and we ask that you fill that out and give it back to Ms. Benezak, and we will have that item on the agenda in December. So, thank you very much. Any other comments? Mr. England. Mm-hmm. In December, right. Well, we'll go in executive session for the superintendent's evaluation. Okay. Thank you. Anyone else? Ms. Benezak?
Just to remind everyone that our regular monthly meeting is next week.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, yes.
I was supposed to say that. Normally, it's 2 weeks between meetings, but because of the Thanksgiving break, our regular meeting will be next Tuesday, the 17th. Okay. Thank you, Ms.
Thank you, Ms. Benezak, for that reminder. Okay, anyone else?
The first thought came to my head.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
I will forget.
There's a motion seconded by Ms. Aceveda. All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? The meeting's now adjourned. Thanks and good night.